Welcome back to One Piece Anime Review. This is part 19B. The reason I'm doing parts because, well, why not? It's just basically for a series thing. Then 20 is going to be like the rest of the films. But this part I'm going to talk about the Little East Blue arc from the One Piece anime series, which I skipped over, which related to the film I'm going to talk about. C, I'm going to talk about the stuff related to Z. I've already talked about the arc, just the couple of things leading to it and the film itself. Let's see. D will be basically about Gold, the film Gold, and its two preludes. I've already talked about the arc that led to that film. And E will be about the rest of the specials. Basically, 19 will be split into 5 parts. Yeah, 5 parts. 20 will basically be the first, 10 films. Yeah, the films that preceded Strong World. That's what I'm going to talk about in that video. Excuse me. But let's talk about Little East Blue. Little East Blue is simply put a prelude to the film Strong World. It takes up 4 episodes of the series. Now, I have no problem with the arc itself. The arc has got a really good story with it. It comes at a very jarring time. Like, if you're watching the series, you're like, okay, we get very interesting with Impel Down because this came out during Impel Down, this 4-part story. And here's kind of the weird thing. This prelude to this film came out during Impel Down. Couldn't this come out, I don't know, earlier to promote this movie? But nope. My guess is they were kind of forced to do this. So, yeah, but it was presented really well. I do have some mild complaints, but aside from the fact it comes at a very odd time, basically during an actual arc of the series. And by the way, this 4-parter has nothing to do with Impel Down at all. It's referencing Impel Down, but it's like, oh, it takes place before Impel Down. No, it doesn't. It looks like it takes place before even they went to Sabaody. Yeah, that's what it seems like. Before even met with Hatchin or even Cammy. Because basically Brook is already part of the crew. Yeah, and this, of course, I think is the first one to feature Brook. Yeah, I think so. Let me look it up. I think this is the first one to feature him, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, out of all the films, I think this is the first one that features him specifically. Let's see. Let's see. No, I thought this was the first one to feature Brook. It actually is not. Brook is featured prominently in this movie. I think he made his first appearance in the previous movie, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look it up here. Which was Straw Hat Chase. That was the previous movie for this one. Let me take a look about that. Yeah, I think this was by far the first movie to feature Brook. Though he's featured in the next 2 films, but he's not featured in the previous 9 films. This is actually the 10th film overall. Now, why am I starting with the 10th film instead of starting with the first one? Because there was an arc that led him to it. Now, in the case of Little East Blue itself, it's just basically a town that basically is on this small island, which apparently the people are basically fans of the first 5 members of the Straw Hats crew. Like, there's a recreation of the Windmill Village, Cocoa Village, which is where Nami's from, the Bastille, which is basically where Sanji worked, and there's also a recreation of Zoro's dojo. Yeah, and the people who live in this town are all from the East Blue. So yeah, this loosely ties into what goes on in the actual film itself. And there's these Amigo pirates who are there at this island to catch this beetle, this giant beetle. And the Straw Hats, basically about the first 5 of them, get to fight these guys. As for Robin, Brook, Chopper, and Frankie, they do nothing. Absolutely nothing. I'm like, seriously? You couldn't have these guys fight the Amigo Pirates? Nope. Just had the first 5 crew members before they went to the Grand Line. Let's have these guys fight the crew, fight the Amigo Pirates, and have the other 4 who joined after they went to the Grand Line. Let's have these 4 people do virtually nothing. Frankie gets built a cage. Aside from that, the cage is used not to capture the Beetle, but to capture the Amigo Pirates. Aside from that, excuse me, that's really it. And there's just a little girl in the film who wears a marine cap and coat. Those were actually belonging to her father, who was killed by pirates, and she basically hates pirates. Now, Nami, basically, they do show a flashback in here of Arlong killing her adopted mother, Bellamere. They show that in there, but yeah, it's like she didn't go into too much detail. The fact that she has something come with this little girl, the fact she had a parent killed by a pirate. Yeah, but she only hates one pirate particularly, that's Arlong. She despises him. Yeah. And of course, there's a lot of fighting. And the Captain Amigo Pirates, he basically is a net man. He basically can form his own body, form nets out of his hands like a sticky net, a spiky net, or a steel cage net. Yep. Supposedly his little brother can basically have guns appear out of his body, either out of his hands or out of his belly. Yeah. It's a pretty interesting fight, and of course, they all just they just plow right through these guys so easily. Yeah, the Amigo Pirates are some of the most weakest pirates I have actually seen in the series. Their captain and vice captain are a lot more stronger, a lot more of an interesting challenge to them. Yep. Nami doesn't do very much. She's in the fight. She just shocks some of them. Has people use the caves basically used for escaping, just make a proper ambush. Shocks some of them, doesn't do very much. I mean, the only people who actually do anything in this whole arc are just Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro. That's it. Nami does very little. And the other 4 crew members do virtually jack squat. Of course, this is before the time jump, basically, so everybody's in their part 1 looks. Yep, like Luffy is still wearing his red vest and his shorts. He doesn't have the scar yet. If I'm looking at this takes place before Sabaody. That's what it looks like to me. That could have been easily put that there instead of just interfere with have this 4-part just interrupt Impel Down for 4 episodes. Yeah, that's the only major complaint about it. Aside and that, and of course, the 4 criminals do virtually nothing. Yeah, they just sit on the boat, do nothing. Yep. It was a pretty good story nonetheless. Now, of course, talking about the film Strong World, which is actually the first film written by, get this, the creator, the guy who does the manga, Oda. Yep, he does the movie. Yep. Eiichiro Oda. Yeah, this is actually the first film he writes, and I gotta say, for people who may not be familiar with the One Piece franchise, it's a great movie. And of course, they do hint at the character Shiki, the Golden Light. They hint at him in the series. So I'm glad the fact they set up, even in the canon episodes, they set up this guy. And he was apparently the first person to ever escape from Impel Down. Okay, and he escaped by chopping off his own legs and then flying out. I'm like, seriously? Oh yeah, and the rest of the film, he has little swords attached to his legs. And wow. Man, chop off your own leg just to escape? That's ballsy. Mm-hmm. And the film kind of starts out basically with the Straw Hats separated on these various floating islands, and Nami's at this looks like a swimming pool, and she's swimming in her fancy bikini, one of 2 bikinis she's actually worn. This is actually, I think, this bikini only appears in this film. She never wore it in the series I can think of. She goes swimming, and of course, Shiki offers many times to have her join his crew as navigator. This bad fact, she's already a member of the Straw Hats. Eventually, she escapes with the makeshift bird who also shoots electricity. Yeah, they escape by going out one of the ventilation underneath the pool. Excuse me. They get out. Oh yeah, and it shows a flashback of Shiki going on the Straw Hats ship. Have them sort of float up there. He kidnaps Nami, and everybody gets scattered at various times. Like Luffy's by himself, and of course Sanji and Usopp by themselves. Zoro, I think, is with Chopper, and Brook, Robin, and Frankie are basically just wandering about jungle. And of course, it's a very interesting setup, interesting setup for the film. And of course, the flashback. Of course, Sheik shows up as Dofus power. He basically makes objects float. Yeah, that's basically what he can do. Interesting power per se. Then of course, as everybody reunites, he basically stormed the palace. And there's a key plant that you set up early on in the film, where this plant is poisonous to animals. It basically has animals stop and just turn back. Though it doesn't matter humans very much, but if they breathe things for too long, they start suffocating and nearly dying. Nami, of course, sets up with this later on in the movie. Of course, Shiki gets a chance to fight some of the Straw Hats. Well, all but Robin, Frankie, and Brook, who actually end up in the palace. And they found out about Shiki. Basically, he's the one behind attacks in the East Blue. And of course, prior to them going to the island, they were going to go to the East Blue to protect it, leaving the Grand Line. Which I'm like, why? Just find out who's behind the attacks and just take them on. That's basically what they should have done in the first place. They eventually, Nami tries to blow up the plants that are actually near the palace. She fails, she gets exposure, and she gets basically these various rods planted through her, around her. Heck, there's actually one that goes right between her legs. Yeah. And of course, she's wearing this gorgeous looking dress. Yeah, she was like this dress in like this pink, fluffy thing after she joins the crew, just to attack it from within. Which is kind of a neat idea. Though she has a recording transponder, she has sort of a recording dial, records like a message. It's like, oh yeah, legendary thing. Of course, Luffy doesn't believe it. He doesn't finish listening to the message. Yeah, there's actually an underlying message that says, "Save me." Yep, and they all go in and like, and the Straw Hats, after all reuniting, after they free from the giant pillar. Of course, they listen to the message, and then they go to the thing, and they all dress up. They all put on like fancy suits. Like Robin puts on a suit with like a corset, like giant belt thing around her. And this is probably the only time ever that you get a chance to see. This is actually the first time I've seen it in the anime where Frankie wears a pair of pants, because he wears a Speedo a lot of the time and a Hawaiian shirt. Though later on he wears a different shirt later on. And Luffy still wears his flip-flop sandals, but he gets a chance to see him wear a shirt and tie. Yep, first time ever. And he also wears like a traditional pirate captain's coat, of something he would never wear in the actual series. Never knew why. A lot of the other pirate captains did, but Luffy never did for some reason. Yeah. And they all go in like they're gangsters, yeah, Luffy acts like he's Al freaking Capone. And also for the first time, Luffy uses a gun. Yeah. And they all just barge right in, and they shoot up the place. Basically, of course, Shiki's trying to do a ceremony, like a drinking sake, to basically sort of like where they sort of drink it and becomes like his sons, basically official. And they all break in, and they all have like their Al Capone, like they're on the St. Valentine's Day massacre, and they just shoot everybody in the whole room until they run out of bullets, and they take out everybody. Yep. And of course, Sanji takes on the one of his two top henchmen, who is a gorilla. Zoro takes on their scientist/swordsman, which the scientist also develops a cure for Nami. Of course, Chopper and Usopp went to go find Nami, while everyone else gets to beat up the other guys. And then it's something weird, like the monkey kidnaps Robin, attempts to kiss her while she's sort of unconscious, and then Zoro, basically getting like really nuts, just runs up, kicks the guy, and he was going to catch Robin, but Brook catches her instead. Yeah, it's quite hilarious. Yeah. But there's also an awesome fight scene between Luffy and Shiki. Yeah, it goes on for a little while. I think it's a good last 30 minutes of the movie. They do beat everybody, and here's kind of the weird thing, because Shiki gets defeated, his power basically has these floating islands go back down to the ocean, and Shiki is two henchmen fall directly from the sky, and they do catch him. And of course, the Straw Hats all get back on their ship, and they get down. And apparently, they took one of Shiki's sails out of the ship to float a little bit. They do the coup de grace thing. They do it like 3 times in this movie. They do it like kind of like at like at least 2 or 3 times, and it's always a cool sight to see. Even the anime, it's always a cool sight to see. But yeah, this was a pretty fun movie. Good story. Got a chance to see a lot of monsters. Get a good character stuff with a lot of the characters just interact with each other. Yeah, and of course, seeing Frankie drive a motorcycle again, just like he did during Fishman Island. He drives 2 of them. First, he drives one that basically is a giant lobster, and then the other one is a giant grasshopper, which basically Luffy was chasing off in the beginning of the film. Oh, and Luffy's outfit in the film, he still wears his jean shorts, but he wears like a blue, kind of like a blue button-up shirt, which is open. He has like 2 X's on it. Yeah, that's his outfit for pretty much most of the film up until he changes. Everybody else looks like they wear pretty much their traditional attire they wear in the series, from what I can tell. And yeah, great looks, great animation. And of course, you get a chance to see a little bit of the Sunny in CGI, which is basically you get a chance to see a little bit of that in this actual series. You see a little bit more here. Now, some people might think of this film as sort of like a big budget version of the series. It kind of is. That's what these movies are for. But it has a good story, good action, good everything. This is probably I haven't watched the rest of the movies yet, so I can't exactly have my full opinion about all the movies yet. But it's a good movie that. I mean, the first one it's kind of the same thing I did with Naruto, where the first one I watched was the film The Last. That was the first one I watched. Which was I think it was the 11th film that came out of that series. I think it was like 11th film. Well, this one is actually the 10th film. Bleach, I did the same thing, where I watched, first I watched with the second film, not the first film. In the case of Yu Hakusho and Hunter x Hunter, I start with the first film because they only have 2 films. Yeah. But series to have multiple films. Oh, and Pokemon I start with the first film as well. Yeah, I did for that one as well. I did also for Digimon as well. But Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece, I started not with the first one, but a different film as my first film for the series. Of the multiple films they had. The Bleach only released 4 films, while Naruto releases like 10, 11 films. And, of course, One Piece releases, like, over a dozen films. And I start with the 10th one. I think there's, like, 12 films altogether. The next one I'm going to watch is Z. But I'm going to watch a couple preludes first, because I've already watched the arc that leads into the film. I got watch like, a couple one-shots, and then the actual film itself. So, yeah. And this film is only came out just back in 2009. Yeah, this film is like 8 years old. Yeah, this is an 8-year-old movie, and the animation still holds up after 8 years. So I would not really all that surprised because TV Tokyo basically made this film. I think that was the studio that made this film. The studio, yeah, it was made by Toei Animation. Yeah, Toei Animation, the same company that makes the Godzilla films. No, this is one of their divisions, but Toei Animation, very good animation studio because they also do the Dragon Balls. They also do the Dragon Ball Z series. And I think they do One Piece. Basically, anything that Toei Animation does, Filmation does a dub for. I don't know if I think they did do Fairy Tail because Filmation did a dub for that as well. I don't know if they did Yu Hakusho, Hunter x Hunter. I know they did not do Hunter x Hunter the second series because that was done by their production studio, but I'm not sure who did the dub for it. But yeah, good film. I'm gonna give One Piece Strong World. I'm going to give this film a 9 out of 10. This is an awesome film. No major flaws. Not a perfect movie per se, but it's a great movie. The actual arc that leads into the film, it's a good arc. I'm not going to give that one a rating because that actually relates to the actual series, but as a prelude to this film, it's awesome. It's awesome, but you put it in the wrong place. You could have like put it between the seasons, but no, you have to do it during the Impel Down, like very early on, like after like the first like 5 or 6 episodes. Bam, we have this arc comes completely out of nowhere, and the narration is a few days before Impel Down. I'm like, no. A few days before, Living with Impel Down, he was an Amazon Lily, so the animation, the narration lied. Because it's a filler story. That's simply the whole point of it. It's a filler. Good filler, because I've watched like every single filler story for the entire series. None of them are bad. Nope, they're all really good stories. The people who do the animation basically do a top-notch job for it, okay? So, that's it for this one. Stay tuned for part 19C, where I'm talking about the film Z and its two preludes, which are one of the specials, Luffy Adventure on Hand Island and Glorious Island. I'm going to talk about those two. I'm going to watch those two, and of course in the film. Basically, those three in the film, we'll talk about next part of this part 19, okay? Until then, I will see you there. Bye.